All right, so I'm going to show you how to make a wire controller deformer rig. It's good for a lot of different things. It's particularly good for things that just are linear. So like this has one line that runs through it. So that's basically what we're going to do. So I'm looking at this. Okay, I see it works pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch this up the view that's perpendicular to it. And I'm going to draw a curve around it that we're basically going to control it with. So I'm going to go to Create, Curve Tools, CV Curve Tool, Option Box. I just want to make sure it's on cubic. Linear will make it straight lines. Cubic will make it not. Now, let's say you were going to do an N, right? If you have it on cubic, I'll show you actually. Let's say I try to do 4 lines. It's going to look like this. Doesn't really work that well. Okay. Not that great. Now, it actually might make sense to do linear for that instead, because you can see there it can run it, and then if I want to control it, I can move each one of these points and so on and so forth. So if you're gonna do something that's a little more like that, like if a curve doesn't work for it, then feel free to do that. And I would even suggest it. But for what I'm doing, because I'm doing a nice kind of curve thing, and if a curve will work, use that. Okay. You also want to limit the number of points or CVs or control vertices that you do in order to make it. Okay. So I'm gonna click here. I'm gonna click here. I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna click here. Okay, so you can see it's off. But I knew that that's why you can see I drew it way out. I didn't draw it inside here because I knew that this is like a bounding box. I'm gonna hit Enter. I'm gonna right click over top of it. I hit 4 to get wireframe, or you can hit this. So I just right click over top of it, Control Vertex, and I am just going to try to reposition these in order to make them, do what I want. Okay, great. There's my curve. Looks fantastic. So now what I'm going to do is I got my curve and I got my model, right? So there's 2 things that need to interact with. One's going to deform the other. So basically we're going to use, I'm going to switch over from modeling to rigging. If you're an older version, before 2016, you want to use animation. It'll be in there, but in our case it will be in rigging. And you want to go deform, wire, okay? So right down on the bottom, it'll actually say, I can't point to it because it'll turn off, but right down here, it says wire tool. Select shapes to deform and press enter. So click on this and then hit enter. Then it says wire tool. Select wires, curves, and then press enter. Enter. And now it affects it. Now you'll notice when you select it, the mesh turns purple. That means that it's affecting it. And if I control if I right click control a CV, it will subsequently affect it. Okay, so basically because it's running through it, it's now manipulating it. Okay, which is great and that's good and everything. You do lose a little bit of control. There are other things that are a little bit better, but because you can see, like, look, see how it's like deforming here, like maybe not in a way I would have liked. See how it's just tearing. But it's not bad. I mean, for a pretty quick and easy thing, it looks pretty good. Now, what I don't want to do, though, is have to right-click, go control CVs, and control it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab each one of these individually and make a cluster. So I'm going to select the first cluster here, or the first CV, and I'm going to go to Deform, Cluster. And basically what it does, it creates a cluster handle that I can simply grab this handle at an object mode. I don't have to right-click. I don't have to go into any of the components. And when I grab that, it controls that CV. So I'm going to do that for each one. So since it was the last thing I did, every subsequent one, I can hit G. Okay, so I'm going to right-click on this, Control Vertex, select this, and I could, again, go to Deform Cluster. It'll make the cluster. Right-click, Control. But that was the last thing I did. So if I select this one, I can just hit G, since it was the last executable action. G. Okay, so now you see I have 4. This is the reason why I wanted to do 4. You might need to make more than 4. If you have to make more than 4, you have to make more than 4. You need at least 4. You cannot make a curve with only 3. It won't be cubic, okay, as far as like the bending is concerned. Okay, so now I have these 3. Now the thing is, like, these are better. I mean, it's better than what we had, but it's still not great. What I'd rather have is actually have controllers, okay? So usually we always have is you have a model, then you have the deformer that's going to manipulate the model in a component at a component level, and then you have the controllers that allow you to control that manipulation. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create some curves. Okay, so we're getting pretty close. It's looking good. Yay. So to do that, it's real easy. Create, NURBS primitives circle. There it is. Fantabulous. I'm going to hit 4 for wireframe. And then I need to snap it to that C. Okay, so I'm going to hold V for point snap. I'm going to drag it. And as you can see, I did a terrible job. Hold V and drag it to that C. Okay, good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to R, scale it. Okay, and I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to hit E for rotate. I'm going to hold J, which is increment. Or you can literally, you see how it's red? If you look down here, red is X. I could just type in 90. Or if I hold J, I could just click and it'll do it in 15-degree increments. I'm going to scale it again to make it a little bit smaller. Good. Looks good. Okay. Now, that's one controller. I'm going to hit 4 again. And I'm going to hit Control D or Command D if you're on a Mac to duplicate it. And I'm going to hold V. And I'm going to try and point snap it to the other cluster. Hold V. Good. And I'm going to duplicate again. Control D, V. Control D and V. Beauteous. All right. So now I've got my controllers. Okay. So I need to make these look a little bit better and fix some things. So I'm going to go to the attribute editor. I'm going to go to the shape node, object display. Okay. Then drawing overrides. Enable overrides, and we will make them yellow. Like this one. Enable overrides. This one. And this does nothing. It's just to make it a little bit nicer to look at. But, you know, it's a little bit easier to work with this way. Good. All right. And I'm also going to create one more curve. So create NURBS primitives circle. And I'm going to keep that right at the center. And I'm going to scale this down just a touch. Like so. And, oops. That's not what I meant to do. We're going to select it. And I'm going to make this one red. Just so it's a little bit different. And where are you, red? There. Okay. That'll be our master controller. Let's go ahead and rename these. So I'll go back to the channel box, and I'm going to rename this one just C underscore controller 01 underscore CRV. Okay, so C because this is the letter that it's attached to, or the name of the object. Controller because it's the controller 01 because I don't have a better naming scheme for this, and then underscore CRV for curve. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to copy that. And so Control C, Control V, or Command C, Command V. Or if that doesn't work, just do it by hand again. Controller 02 underscore CRV. And Control C. And Control V. And 3. Grab this. Control V. And this will be number 4. And then we'll take this one. Control V, and this one's going to be controller, and I'm going to call it master, like that. Okay, great. So now we have those ones and this one. Now, if you look, they have dirty values, and they also have a little bit of history. So again, I'm going to grab all of them. So I'm going to select this one. I'm going to hold Shift, grab this one, this one. I'm holding Shift the entire time, this one, and this one. So now I have all 5 of these selected. I'm going to go to Modify, Freeze Transforms. Zeroes out the transforms, which is good. And I'm going to do Edit, Delete by Type, History. It just gets rid of any history that might be there. Beauteous. Now, what I need to do is this. I need to take this curve. So to grab that, the cluster. To grab the cluster might be kind of hard. If you try to click on it, honestly, you're going to have a terrible time. I just got it though. Wow, I'm good. If you have a hard time grabbing it, what I do is this. I click and drag over it. Then I hold Control. And notice how my cursor turns into a minus, the little minus symbol on the top. Now when I click and drag, it will unselect anything. It won't add, it will only unselect. See how it says cluster 1 handle? If it says ... that means you have more than one thing selected. As long as there's no ... that means it's the only thing I currently have selected. I'm going to hold Shift, click and drag over this. So now I have the controller. Notice how it says ... because I have the cluster and now this. You want this second. That means what you're going to parent to. And I'm going to hit P to parent. Great. I'll grab this, Shift select the curve, parent. Grab the cluster, Shift select the curve, P for parent. All right, I got the cluster, Shift select the curve, parent. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select each one of these curves. All right, so all 4 of these controllers, and lastly select the master controller and hit P. So now when I move the master controller, it moves all of them. Okay. I'm going to hit Command Shift S, which is the same thing as File Save As. I'm going to save this as the next version. 2. Good. Now, for all intents and purposes, this rig's looking pretty good. If I grab this, you can see it moves the pieces, and that's pretty sweetness. But it could be cleaned up a little bit. So I'm going to go to Windows, Hypergraph Hierarchy. All right, and this is where I'm going to go through and basically clean it up if it doesn't crash on me. There it goes. Okay, so what you're going to see, hopefully it looks something like this, but you'll see I have these two curves. This is the wire that's running through it. That's this. So one is the base shape. These are the geometry. All right. We need to make two groups. I'm going to have nothing selected, so I'm just going to click out here. I'm going to hit Control G, which is going to make a null group. I'm going to right click over top of it, rename, and I'm going to call this one non-transform. So this is going to be the group underscore GRP. This is the group that holds all the things that we do not want to, we don't want the animator to move. Okay, so I'm going to grab these. Oops, not like that. I'm going to grab both of these. I'm going to middle mouse button, click and drag underneath this, or onto it. I'm going to select this. I could do the same thing. I could middle mouse button, click and drag it, or if I select this, hold shift, select this, and then hit P, it'll parent it. All right, good. All right, now we're going to make another group. So I'm going to, with nothing selected, hit Control G, right click over top of it, rename. We're going to call this one transform underscore GRP. Beauteous. We're going to take the controller and we're going to parent it to that. I'm going to grab both of these, hit Control G, and I'm going to right click, and we're going to rename. So basically both of those are part of it, and we're just going to call this C underscore GRP. Now, this is looking pretty good, and if you look, you can see that basically, by 5, I have all my pieces. But the thing I don't want to have happen is I don't want the person to accidentally grab this curve, because I can accidentally move it here. I could accidentally grab one of these clusters and move it this way. I want to hide all these things, okay? Just so that the animator doesn't get tempted to affect them. So I'm going to grab all of the clusters. You can do it manually, or I'm just grabbing them here. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn them off, the visibility. I'm going to hit Control H, or you can type in 0 here. Either way works, okay? The other thing I'm going to do is, you see this curve here? I want to get rid of that, or I want to hide that too. So I'm going to hit Control H, and that hides that. Good. Now, last thing is this. I can actually grab the geometry. I don't really want to be accidentally moving it. This is something we didn't go over in class, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to go to Attribute Editor. Underneath the Shape node, you want to go to Render Stats. Sorry, not Render Stats. Object Display. Drawing Overrides. You remember that before? Enable Overrides. And this time you're going to switch this to Reference. And what that means is that you cannot select it. It's almost as if the layer is referenced. So the only thing I can even touch is the curves themselves. So there's no chance that they can accidentally move this. The other things are all hidden. So it makes the rig a little less breakable, which is always a good thing because animators are terrible human beings and will break everything all the time. And I'm a big animator, so even I know that. And they know it too. They might deny it. All right. So, nom 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 nom. We now have this. I'm going to go ahead and save this as my next version. Save it as 3. And there you go. So now we have a basic line drawn that has a basic wire rig in it that we can control. And we can animate it as a whole. And that's good. So there you go.